Trolls. I'm the Booktube Goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. We are here to celebrate the authors and works that have been nominated for the Hugo Awards. They just announced the nominations. Voting will occur up through November, and then we'll find out who the actual winners are. But I wanted to go ahead and take a look and see who is in the running. And of course, let's start with Best Novel. The Best Novel nominees are Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Now, I have heard a lot about this book, but I've also heard that the conclusion really leaves you hanging. And I haven't read this book yet, but I may wait until the sequel is out so I could read them together. And I'm not sure if this is a duology or the start of a much larger series, but let's go ahead and read the blurb about Black Sun. According to Goodreads, it is the first book in the Between Land and Sky trilogy. Okay, there's 3 books inspired by the civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas, so Native Americans, and woven into a tale of celestial prophecies, political intrigue, and forbidden magic. A god will return when the earth and sky converge under the black sun. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal, but this year it coincides with a solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Ziala, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries 1 passenger. Described as harmless, the passenger, Serapio, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Ziala well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. Now, I think this is one of those blurbs that sounds a lot like other blurbs, except for the fact that it's set in pre-Columbian America, but I'm not getting a real clear idea of what's really unique about this. But again, I heard the ending is a real cliffhanger, so I think I'll wait until at least the second book is out. Next up is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. Congratulations, N.K. Jemisin. Now, I've talked about this book before, that it is about cities coming to life and creating their own avatar. Something went wrong in New York, and New York split, and an avatar arose in each borough. It's very Lovecraftian. It's contemporary fantasy, which I have not read from N.K. Jemisin before. Is this the best N.K. Jemisin? I would say no. It's not quite on the level as the Broken Earth trilogy, which she won Hugo Awards for every single novel in that trilogy. And it's kind of an introduction into the world, or into this new version of New York. So I would be surprised if this one wins, but very pleased to see it on here. Next up is Harrow the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. Now again, I have read this and I have such mixed opinions about Harrow the Ninth, because I felt it was so disappointing when I was expecting the same voice and narration that I got from the first book, Gideon the Ninth, which I thought was fantastic. So because my expectations were wanting more of the Gideon novel, the first novel in the series, and I got something completely different in the second novel, I have some opinions about this. But that said, I can appreciate Harrow the Ninth. It's told mostly in second person. It does some very experimental story development. which I appreciate. I just don't know if it's worth the journey to get there, but congratulations, Tamsyn Muir. Next up is The Network Effect by Martha Wells. I'm familiar with this author, but I have not read The Network Effect. Let's take a look at its blurb. Okay, The Network Effect by Margaret Wells is part of a series, The Murderbot Diaries number 5. So I'd be surprised if this one's the 5th book in a series, unless it's sort of the conclusion. But anyway, let's read the blurb. Murderbot returns to its highly anticipated first full-length standalone novel. Okay, I don't know anything about what's going on with Murderbot. Maybe it was novellas until then, or short stories. You know the feeling when you're at work and you've had enough of people, and then the boss walks in and yet another job that needs to be done right this second or the world will end. But all you want to do is go home and binge your favorite shows. And you're a sentient murder machine programmed for destruction. Congratulations, you're Murderbot. Come for the pew-pew space battles. Stay for the most relatable AI you will read this century. I'm usually alone in my head, and that's where 90+% of my problems are. When Murderbot's human associates, not friends, never friends, are captured, and another not friend from its past requires urgent assistance, Murderbot must choose between inertia and drastic action. Drastic action it is then. Now this seems like a really cute series. I don't know why it says it's the first standalone novel. I don't know what's going on with Murderbot 1 through 4. Maybe they're a collection of short stories. I don't know. Kind of interested, but I would want to go back and see what it's about from the beginning. I don't know if I'm into that. If you are a Murderbot fan and are familiar with this work, let me know in the comments, because this one I'm not sure if I'm going to go ahead and read. Next up is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Now, I remember this from Shelve It or Shove It. I didn't pick it because the cover was kind of and I wasn't sure if I was into another big epic like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I have read and I did like a lot. But I've since been told that Piranesi is a lot different than that magnum opus. So let's go ahead and read the blurb. Piranesi's house is no ordinary building. Its rooms are infinite, its corridors endless, its walls are lined with thousands upon thousands of statues, each one different from all the others. Within the labyrinth of halls, an ocean is imprisoned. Waves thunder up staircases, rooms are flooded in an instant. But Piranesi is not afraid. He understands the tides as he understands the pattern of the labyrinth itself. He lives to explore the house. There is one other person in the house, a man called the Other, who visits Piranesi twice a week and asks for help with research into a great and secret knowledge. But as Piranesi explores, evidence emerges of another person, and a terrible truth begins to unravel, revealing a world beyond the one Piranesi has always known. Okay, now I am really intrigued about this book. It sounds very high concept, very imaginative, almost sort of like an Alice in Wonderland type riff. I don't know, I am so curious now about Piranesi. Here's to you, Susanna Clarke. You got me really intrigued. And lastly is The Relentless Moon by Mary Robinette Kowal, an author I'm not familiar with, and I don't know this work, but let's go ahead and look at the blurb. Oh, it is the 3rd book in the series, The Lady Astronaut Universe number 3. Mary Robinette Kowal continues her award-winning Lady Astronaut series, which began with The Calculating Stars and The Fated Sky with The Relentless Moon. Now, let's hold on here because I haven't read any of these books and I don't really want to read the blurb for book 3. Let's go ahead and read the blurb of book 1 just to get an idea of what the story is about. Okay, the first book in this series called The Calculating Stars On a cold spring night in 1952, a huge meteorite fell to Earth and obliterated much of the east coast of the United States, including Washington, D.C. The ensuing climate cataclysm will soon render the Earth inhospitable for humanity, as the last such meteorite did for the dinosaurs. The looming threat calls for a radically accelerated effort to colonize space and requires a much larger share of humanity to take part in the process. Alma York's experience as a WASP pilot and mathematician earns her a place in the International Aerospace Coalition's attempt to put man on the moon as a calculator, but with so many skilled and experienced women pilots and scientists involved with this program, it doesn't take long before Alma begins to wonder why they can't go into space too. Alma's drive to become the first lady astronaut is so strong that even the most dearly held conventions of society may not stand a chance against her. Wow, so this is a retelling of the 1950s space program impelled by a giant meteorite. So I'm not that interested in it. Don't hate me! But if you've read it, let me know in the comments below if you think I'm missing out on something really good. Okay, let's quickly take a look at the rest of the nominations. Best Novella, Come Tumbling Down by Shannon McGuire, The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Ying Vo, Finna by Nino Cipri, Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clarke, I have heard of that, Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi, I've also heard of that, Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey, I have read that, wasn't my favorite. Best Novelette, Burn or the Upside of Life of Sam Wells as a Super by A.T. Greenblatt, Helicopter Story by Isabella Fall, The Inaccessibility of Heaven by Aliette de Bodard, Monster by Naomi Kritzer, The Pill by Meg Ellison, and Two Truths and a Lie by Sarah Pinkster. Best Short Story, Badass Moms in the Zombie Apocalypse by Ray Carson. Love that title. A Guide for Working Breeds by Vinna G. Prasad. Little Free Library by Naomi Kritzer. The Mermaid Astronaut by Yoon Ha Lee. Metal Like Blood in the Dark by T. Kingfisher. Open House on Haunted Hill, I like that title too, by John Wiswell. Best Series, The Daevabad Trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. You know I'm a huge fan of that series, wouldn't mind seeing that win. The Interdependency by John Scalzi, don't know that one. The Lady Astronaut Universe by Mary Robinette Kowal, which we've gone over. The Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells, which we've gone over. October Day by Shannon McGuire. And The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Gosh, this is a tough one. I kind of hope The Poppy War wins. Let me know in the comments which series you think deserves the Best Series award. Best Related Work, Beowulf: A New Translations by Maria Davana Headley. Con Zealand Fringe by Claire Rousseau. Viacom, L.D. Lewis, director, Brent Lambert, senior programming. There's a bunch of people. George R.R. Martin Can Fuck Off Into the Sun, or the 2020 Hugo Awards Ceremony Rage Blog Edition by Natalie Lures. I kind of want to read that. I don't know what it is, but I want to read it. A Handful of Earth, A Handful of Sky, The Worlds of Octavia E. Butler, one of my favorite authors. And the last, BronyCon, A Fandom Autopsy by Jenny Nicholson. Best Graphic Story or Comic. I don't really read graphic novels that much anymore, but let's see what they have. Die, Volume 2, Split the Party, written by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hands. Letters by Clayton Cowles. Ghost Spider, Volume 1, Dog Days Are Over. Author Shannon McGuire. Artist Takeshi Miyazawa and Rosie Campe. Invisible Kingdom, Volume 2, Edge of Everything. Author G. Willow Wilson, artist Christian Ward. Monstrous, Volume 5, War Child, author Marjorie Liu, artist Sena Takeda. Once and Future, Volume 1, The King is Undead, written by Kieran Gillen, illustrated by Dan Mora, colored by Tamara Bonvillain, lettered by Ed Dukeshire. Parable of the Sower, a graphic novel adaptation written by Octavia Butler, adapted by Damian Duffy, illustrated by John Jennings. And for Best Dramatic Presentation, long form, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga, written by Will Ferrell. Oh, I have seen this, but I wouldn't call it speculative. The Old Guard, written by Greg Rucka, have not seen it. Palm Springs, written by Andy Sierra. Gosh, I'm missing a lot of things here. Soul, screenplay by Pete Docter, Mike Jones, and Kemp Powers. Tenet, written and directed by Christopher Nolan. If you've seen any of these, let me know down in the comments if any of them are worth watching, because I don't think I've seen any of them except for Eurovision. Best Dramatic Presentation Short Form, Doctor Who, Fugitive of the Judoon, written by Vinay Patel and Chris Chibnall. The Expanse, Gay Jamala, written by Dan Nowak. She-Ra and the Princess of Power, Heart, Parts 1 and 2, written by Josie Campbell and Noelle Stevenson. The Mandalorian, Chapter 13, The Jedi, written and directed by David Filoni. The Mandalorian, Chapter 16, The Rescue, written by Jon Favreau. The Good Place, Whenever You're Ready, written and directed by Michael Schur. Best Editor, Short Form, Neil Clarke, Alan Datlow, C.C. Finlay, Muir Lafferty, and S.B. Divya, Jonathan Strahan, and Sheila Williams. Best Editor, Long Form, Nivea Evans, Sheila Gilbert, Sarah Guan, Britt Havide, Diana M. Foe, and Nava Wolf. Best Professional Artist, Tommy Arnold, Rovina Kay, Galen Dara, Maurizio Manzieri, John Picasso, and Alyssa Winans. Best Semiprozine. I'm just going to read the titles. Beneath Ceaseless Skies, Escape Pod, Via Magazine of Black Speculative Fiction, Podcastle, Uncanny Magazine, Strange Horizons, and then Best Fanzine, The Full Lid, Journey Planet, Lady Business, Nerds of a Feather Flock Together, Quick Sip, and the unofficial Hugo Book Club blog. Best Fancast, Be the Serpent, presented by Alexander Rowland, Freya Marsk, and Jennifer Mace. Claire Rousseau's YouTube channel, produced by Claire Rousseau. The Cood Street Podcast, presented by Jonathan Strahan and George K. Wolfe, and Jonathan Strahan, producer. Kalanadi, produced and presented by Rachel. Oh my gosh, that's a booktuber I recognize. Oh my gosh. I hope she wins. Way to go, Rachel. Oh my gosh. The Skiffy and Fanty Show, produced by Sean Duke and Jen Zink. World Building for Masochists, presented by Rowena Miller, Marshall Ryan Maresca, and Cass Morris. Best Fan Writer, Cora Buellert, Chris Pazer, Jason Sanford, Elsa Jemisin, Alastair Stewart, and Paul Weimer. Best Fan Artist, Ian J. Clarke, Cyan Daly, Sarah Felix, Grace P. Fong, Maya Hato, and Leah Rose. Best Video Game, Animal Crossing, Blaseball, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, The Last of Us Part 2, and Spirit Father. And here we go, the Lodestar Award for Best Young Adult. Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. I have heard a lot about Cemetery Boys. I think I really need to pick that one up. A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. And I actually like that. I know there's some people had issues with it, especially with the depiction of dreadlocks. It's a whole story, but anyway, I kind of like that book, and I know Naomi Novik's going to address the issues that came up. And going on, Alitso by Darcy Little Badger, don't know that. Legendborn by Tracy Dion. Now, I have heard a lot about Legendborn. I have not read it yet. Raybearer by Jordan Ifuko. I've heard of that one too. A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. Now, as you know, I do enjoy a middle grade or young adult book occasionally. And of these, I've only read A Deadly Education, but I am interested in both The Cemetery Boys and Legendborn. If you think I should read any of the others, let me know down below. And finally, the Astounding Award for Best New Writer. Lindsay Ellis, Simon Jimenez, Micaiah Johnson, A.K. Larkwood, Jen Leons, and Emily Tesh. Now, the only name I recognize is Lindsay Ellis, and that's only because she went through some social media drama, and her name was trending on Twitter one day, and I saw she was the author of Axiom's End, which is a novel that I have heard about. So we'll see. Okay, this was a lot of fun. Who do you think should win Best Novel or any of these other categories that may be of interest to you? Please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.